Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reacts where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Mortez titled Veil, and if we switch over to here we have ourselves a track on the screen on Spotify. This is off of the Veil EP. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. Oof. Okay.
Memories, they take control of me and steal the breath that I breathe in. It's like a movie scene, I'm on the silver screen, watching pieces of me fall dead. Spare me your sympathies, I'm all I wanna be, lost in
excellent.
Flames bursting at the seams. This beast inside of me escapes the veil that I lie in. Oh, blinded but now I see. Give me the kerosene. Light up the stage and believe it.
I'm gonna go back a little bit to sort of like let the track play from this point because I don't like to interrupt too much. What I will say though is I think we could potentially have had the guitars a little bit lower in the mix. Just seems like at some points the leads or the rhythms are kind of dominating some of the vocal parts. I'll have more of a think about it as we go through though. But just for transparency. Oh no, they're fine.
Just to feel I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Just to feel.
I love the choir. No, I appreciate lots of what's going on here. I don't want people to feel that because I made that comment about the guitar parts that I wasn't happy with the production. For example, I love the kind of cinematic kind of drum percussion that we had earlier on in the piece there. It's like as a kind of a substitute for like an acoustic drum kit, for example, there, which is common in a lot of the situations. I like that. We're gonna talk about this track more in the conclusion. And so welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Mortez titled Veil off of the Veil EP. So in this section I'm going to talk about a few things that I really appreciate about this track, a few areas as well as any sort of applicable constructive critique, and finally my overall thoughts about this just from like an actual kind of listening perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think Veil is more of a complicated one. I appreciate that we're going sort of in depth about maybe our own sort of sense of identity, kind of losing our religion, losing who we are, kind of maybe trying to find ourselves, watching it all kind of burst into flame, or maybe having to get rid of who we used to be in order to change or go through some sort of evolution. It's an interesting thing. Like I maybe taking off the veil is kind of taking off our thoughts about what the world used to be and kind of coming to terms with what it really is. I'm not sure, but it's something that maybe we'd have with the context of the entire EP. With this track, though, I nonetheless appreciated hearing the story. I think that people that are kind of fans of the kind of like the goth rock, kind of goth metal kind of genre and everything kind of related, I think it'd be cool. And it's just nice to have a story that's a little bit different to a lot of the stuff that I get sent through. So I think beyond the story, the first thing that I think is done incredibly well, specifically the actual performance of the vocalist, as well as their technique and the kind of affectation that they have within the piece. There is this wonderful glow to the way that they're recorded, and I appreciate the body and their flexibility with the way they communicate, their attention to detail within the hidden just voice, their range that they kind of work with. I think there's also a male vocalist that comes in a bit later on to kind of fill out the lower end, which is a great sort of like extension of that. But I think that this lady, the way that they sing is just incredible, and they absolutely command the attention of people who are listening through this piece. There is a lot to appreciate per se within this. I do like those vocal choir takes that we have. It's a compelling, catchy melody, but I also listen to this and think, yeah, no, I like hearing the story that they're telling. And I think part of the reason I also commented on the guitar levels is simply because I was just liking being able to hear that clearly, because the majority of the time it's fine. And there's like this kind of breathiness in some parts. We change our expression to suit the mood or the kind of what we're talking about. We're more sort of outspoken when we need to in the hook sections where a further intensity is required. Fundamentals are adhered to. We explore our sort of minor oriented kind of like key and scales really effectively, and we also include some chromatics or sort of bluesy options as well for a bit of kind of spice and effect there. I dig it. I like that we add a bit of kind of flavor in there, some vibrato, occasional legato. It's just these tails are great. So the vocals are nailed. I think it's also the choices with the instruments. Specifically, again, it's not just the choirs or the kind of like vocal takes or the harmonies there. It's the use of those distorted kind of gritty guitar sounds for a bit of kind of menace and kind of power in those heavier sections that we work well with those power chords. And there's also some really cool tremolo picked parts as well for a bit of edge. And in fact, there's like a few different riffs there which are really elegantly played there, and they just add a nice sort of contrast to like the smoothness of some of those vocal takes. The menace with working those minor scales as well further orients the sadness or the struggle that we're going through. And the bass is so pronounced in certain parts of this. Other parts is a bit more subtle, but we're very kind of comfortable with allowing that low end to weigh in when it needs to. There are other parts where it's less sort of like apparent, and then it just sort of feels like there's something coming, and that's a really cool thing too. Such as in around the minute mark, we have just the keys for a moment. They have the kind of reverse take and then boom, keys, allowing that little bit of space there dynamically is just really cool. But it's a really kind of like interesting piano arpeggio that's been played as well, so you don't go down in like the pace of things, if that makes sense. We also have the strings at the 2-minute 20 mark, or the pads there, which add a sense of neoclassical menace to it. It's kind of very spooky sounding, like we are going through an ethereal event. And we like going back to the guitar there, we explore those kind of power chords and octave chords, but we've got some really cool upper range parts there where we explore some sort of extensions of those main chord triads or harmonies. And we do, to their sort of testament, we do manage to notch them together in a way where they, aside from like a resonant frequency somewhere, they go together really neatly. Like aside from a resonant frequency somewhere, they go together really neatly. But like the percussion, the mixture of the kind of like the reverb on the percussion, where kind of boom, you know, kind of, it's more than just a drum kit. It seems like a dramatic experience that we're having within this piece. There's been extra attention to detail put forward with that. But like the drum kits have some crazy grooves to them. We're comfortable with the quarters, eighths, and 16ths. There's one fill in there, which is just 16th triplets or something like that, or even 30 seconds. It's just wild. It's just so fast. And it's it takes you by surprise, and you don't get a taste of that again. I don't think there's another fill like that, but it's just kind of cool to have that as a once-off. Like, oh wow, they can really nail it, can't they? But then, of course, you have like the snare crescendo at the start. You have like the string sections there. It's just so much to appreciate, and there's all these structurally little interesting kind of like adjustments that we have there. And I think that's what I want to sort of talk about third is the actual structure of it. We don't stay on one idea for too long. We have great use of sub drops to sort of bring in new sections there. It's like we know we can get away with a certain like development and like the intro part for like 7-10 seconds or so, but then we need to have space because of how it builds, that we can't just continue to go up from a point where we're already up. And there are these like slower elements there where like the pace of it is a clear contrast to that, where we're playing with the listener's expectations. And like, even though the track is predominantly vocal oriented, it's all these changes, and not necessarily even more related to the chord progressions or bass lines, but just the instrumental layering, the adjustments and how those are put forward, and the seamless transitions between them, or the blunt ones with the sub drops, or like the lack of bass or something like that. It's just an exciting piece. And again, I think it's just adding those lower vocals around the 2-minute 07 mark, giving it kind of a hymnish kind of tone, you know, him the band. It's just smart. And having a male and female vocalist, they just generally have different vocal ranges anyway, so it's so easy to amalgamate those. And we have like additional takes on the sides from the lady singing there. Like there's just, yeah, there's a lot to appreciate. I could go on a lot longer than this, but I'll try and be succinct. Having the choir at the end kind of fade us out after we had this big journey almost insinuates, hey, this is the end of the chapter, but this growth, you know, what's going to happen next? You leave on a minor orient, but you still feel like somehow, actually, you don't know how this resolves. But nonetheless, from a listener's perspective, with the variety of different instrumental parts, the really interesting decision of structuring and never taking the listener's attention for granted, and the vocals as well being sort of like top tier across the board, you know, there's a lot to appreciate. I think constructive critique is mainly down to, again, just double checking any potential resonant frequencies within those guitar takes. I think is less of a leveling issue, because I could hear the transfers between parts after that being relatively like effective. Maybe it was like it, but I understand why they put the lead guitar in the middle for that part, or like close to the middle, because if you put the lead guitar to the right, it's deliberately distracting, is it? Then it just is patently, you know, asymmetrical. So I understand why we made the decisions I made there. I don't think it was done badly. It's just literally me being pedantic with these specific headphones I have, these Sony ones, being particularly adept at going, oh, there's the slightest resonant frequency. Otherwise, just honestly, like 99% of the actual production itself is fantastic. I do love a lot of the decisions I made there, again, like the reverb on those orchestral percussive elements, and the way the guitars, bass, drums, choirs, strings, etc., and the keys and pads all came together. It's very, very authentic. From a general listening perspective, I hear this and I think, you know, as someone who likes this kind of music outside of reviews with a potential bias, do I feel that this is something I would listen to again? And I believe it is. I would want to feel more involved. I think this is one of those tracks where you kind of have to hear the entire EP to understand the context of this. It's like, why is this person going through this? Because it's got enough context to be intriguing, but not necessarily enough for you to learn within the first 30 seconds what's going on. So I feel like if you're going to listen to this, you want to listen through the whole EP, though that is a compliment to Mortez, because I'm saying you should listen through the whole EP. But anyways, that's my thoughts on it from a listener perspective. Thank you very much for watching my review of this track from an acts named Mortez titled Veil off of the Veil EP, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SB Reacts. Spiderhands out.